Glad to be with everyone this afternoon. We have a considerable amount of content to get through, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. So I want to go over the agenda here briefly. We're going to learn a little bit about Action. We're going to talk about the Always Current program. We're going to talk about technology debt, that cost of when we do not upgrade. What are the risks related to that? Customizations, and then upgrade planning. So Action currently has more than 200 employees and 6,500 customers over various software segments that Action supports, primarily in the construction and real estate architecture space. Action has 2 company-owned data centers, and we were listed as number 16 on 2022's top 100 bars list, so that's pretty impressive. Also for 2023, Action was awarded top workplace, so I can tell you it's absolutely great to be working with the Action team. So let's jump into what is the Always Current program. Most importantly, everyone on this call should know which program you belong to. In 2022, April of last year, Acumatica came out with this program where every new client automatically was on an Always Current program. Now, because Acumatica, the program was new, they had some flexibility in what occurred. So that means even though you were automatically put on the Always Current program, there was some flexibility to go into what they call Acumatica Flex. So at this point, you would have to elect not to be on the Always Current program, something that, again, everyone that purchased prior to April 1st of 2022, you were grandfathered into the Acumatica Flex program, and you would have had to elect to go to the Always Current. If you were a small business edition owner, you were automatically on the Always Current program, and there is not an option for Flex. So we're going to talk more about these 2 programs, and as we're walking through this, everyone should have an action item if you do not already know which program you're on to find out which one applies to your instance. So currently, there is a fee to move from the Always Current program to the Flex program. Currently, that cost is $6,000 annually, addition to the subscription, and we're going to be talking about why there is a cost to that as part of the technology debt we're going to discuss. And then there is an option, though, on the Always Current program to upgrade only one time per year. So currently that fee is $620, and that means that you don't have to go through 2 upgrades on the Always Current. You could move to one upgrade. Let's take a look at those programs side to side. So on the Acumatica Flex program, the customer has to initiate the upgrade. So you would communicate with us, we would put in a case for you to schedule that upgrade. On the Always Current, they happen automatically, and on another slide I'm going to show you what that schedule looks like. So again, upgrades happen 2 times per year. Acumatica comes out with 2 major releases of the product, an R1 and an R2. And for those on the Always Current program, you will also get bi-monthly updates. So those are minor updates. Although they are considered an upgrade, we tend to call them updates. So they're interim updates that are updates to the program that are usually fixing known issues. On the Always Current program, Acumatica has always recommended that your customizations fall within the low code or no code spectrum. We'll be talking about customizations here after we walk through this program. And then ISV Solutions, Acumatica made a commitment to verify that their vendors on their marketplace for their ISVs are stamped with the Always Current certification. I'll be showing you what those look like as well. So this program for Acumatica has been a major shift to the Flex program, which was previously what everybody was on. So Acumatica is aggressively working to ensure that all of their marketplace ISV solutions obtain the certification for Always Current. So some of the flexibility over the last year has been around ensuring that these ISVs all are able to ensure that well before an upgrade occurs, that their product is compatible with the latest release of Acumatica. Okay, so again, to highlight what the program entails, small business, it's 2 times per year, plus a scheduled minor updates. And then the majority of the clients are on an advanced edition, again, twice per year on a scheduled upgrade date. And then with minor updates being notified as well to each customer. We're going to take a look at what those notifications look like. If you're on a private cloud instance of the product, obviously this upgrade management does not apply to you. You are responsible for your updates in your own environment. Okay. So again, the process for which the updates will occur, this is kind of rolling out again what I kind of highlighted in the previous screen about how often the updates occur. And what I want to point out is that the upgrades that are on the schedule, I'm going to kind of highlight here what those notifications look like to you. So well before the upgrade, the customer will receive a notification, and this is very important that the person who is notified is the person who is listed as the primary contact on your account. So if you know that that person has changed since the time you've purchased Acumatica, you will want to verify either by logging into the Acumatica community to see who is the contact that's listed, or get a hold of Action. You can submit a hotline case and say, you know, I need to validate who the person is as the primary contact. So you can have Action help you, or you can log into the community yourself. Now, we are also notified of when your upgrade is to occur, and our marketing team reaches out to you as well with the contacts that we have on file, notifying you that Acumatica has stated that you will be eligible for an upgrade. Okay, so these upgrades, you're notified 120 days in advance of the upgrade occurring. So let's take a look at what that schedule looks like. So if I am somebody who has purchased Acumatica, I know the slide's a little bit outdated for 2020, but you can insert the current year here. Okay, so your first notification will come 120 days prior to being updated when you're on the Always Current program. So within that time frame, our marketing team will also notify you about the pending upgrade, and at this point, we recommend that you get your sandbox set up so that you can do testing. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. So within that 120 days, that's giving you plenty of flexibility of when you can schedule that upgrade, and then you can upgrade at any point in time prior to that. So let's say you're ready to go, you really don't need to wait until the forced upgrade occurs, but do note that on that date that you've been notified that the upgrade will happen, it will happen automatically. So the reason why this always current program, it's very industry standard that ERP systems update you regularly and always on a major update. They're rolled out automatically to the customer base. Most importantly, new features, right? New feature enhancements are improvements to the end user experience overall. It also helps you maintain the current version with small, frequent, well-planned upgrades. So being on this program, it just becomes part of your routine. You're not having to plan or think about when to upgrade. They happen automatically. At the end of the day, it does minimize costs to your organization. It's going to avoid surprises that will occur with a mandatory update, with all of a sudden being on an outdated version. So these costs related to not upgrading is what Acumatica and industry experts call the technology debt. So new features, again, in the product, this is the reason why the updates occur, that the new versions will bring enhanced functionality, right? So Acumatica during their summit each year is really about highlighting what those new features are that are coming in the product. So great new features coming, for example, in 2023 R1. You'll have an opportunity on a future webinar for us to show you guys what's coming in that new version, as well as be on the lookout for Acumatica to be releasing their presentation of the new features. Okay, there also is, clear competitive advantage for you because it's going to bring enhancements in how you run your business, the opportunity to do new things that you were not able to do before, with the long-term goal of improving processes, right? And helping you service your clients better. So it's all about innovation and keeping up to date. So before I go into talking a little bit about the why we upgrade and the hesitancy, any questions? I'll take a short break right here. Any questions about the Always Current or Flex program?
If you have a question, please go ahead and enter it in the chat on the dashboard.
No problem. I will move on and I'll be taking a break again shortly. I can always go back and answer those questions.
We just had one. What if features are removed? Will we know in advance?
If features are removed. So yes, I'm going to talk about where we can find out about what those changes are, okay?
Okay. One more. Can you give us an idea of what a low-code, no-code customization would be?
Absolutely. We're gonna get to that.
Great.
All right, so why the hesitancy to upgrade? This is normal. I, in my previous career, I had the role where I had to manage upgrades and be responsible for keeping our system up to date. It was a pain point, right? What are those pain points? It takes time to schedule them. We have to train new users if there's changes to standard functionality. We have to go through customizations that we have published to our site. And most importantly, we need to have our subject matter experts do a walkthrough of the new version, right? Just do their normal day-to-day operation. For example, enter an AP bill, cut a check in the sandbox, test what changes that I see in my day-to-day workflow. So that is one of the primary reasons why we don't upgrade, is because it does take time. Okay, one of the other reasons why we tend not to upgrade is, the old adage, if it's not broke, you know, why do I need to fix it? Why do I need to go and change something when everything is working just fine for me today? Okay, this is the real hidden cost and what is talked about, the technology debt, right? Because we know that's going to take an extra effort. I will have some additional costs for my staff. They have to go in and do the testing. But just imagine when you don't upgrade, that cost and that delay actually multiplies, right? So now your impact, the complexity, it just starts getting larger and larger every time we put off that upgrade. So this example here is from Acumatica's direct on the website. You can go out and Google their Always Current program, and they talk about deferring that upgrade. Basically, exponentially, each one you put off will exponentially increase the level of effort required for the next upgrade. So now there might be additional considerations, and you never want to be in a situation where you have to potentially do 2 upgrades to get to the latest version. So definitely these are some of the additional costs that can be incurred if we don't keep on the always current process. So the worst thing that you want to have happen is to end up on a version that's no longer supported. And we can all equate this to our cell phones, right? I absolutely dread when I get the message on my phone that an update's going to happen. So usually I can decline until the point where you must upgrade, right? So we all go through this as well. I mean, I don't have an option to tell Apple, I'm sorry, I don't want to upgrade right now. It was going to happen automatically, or I'm going to be on a version that I can't even use anymore. So there's also some additional risks of not upgrading, being on an unsupported version, such as cyber criminals, right? So outdated versions are at risk potentially, right, from being updated. Now, luckily, if you're on a hosted environment, you can guarantee that anything that's server related is going to be protected. Acumatica, you probably all have seen maintenance updates that are done across the board in a server environment, but it can open you up to software risk, right? So you will also have all the latest security features in the software. Another point for those of you who are going through audits, so if you go through an external CPA audit, one of the standard things that auditors ask for is your software's SOC compliance. So SOC stands for System and Organization Control, and what they're looking at is what is the risk to your business, right? What is your computer environment? What are you doing to mitigate threats? So Acumatica actually issues these SOC audits, and the auditors tend to ask for those. So several of you have already submitted requests such as that, but to make sure you're in compliance, you also want to make sure you're on the latest version of the software, right? So compliance regulations change, so must the software. So a lot of the updates that occur are actually mandated by external threats and ensuring that the software is most up to date. Now, being on an outdated version also comes with actual and real cost as well. So if you're on an outdated version that has been retired, so currently the retired version is 2021 R1 is now considered an outdated version. So upon your renewal, if you have not upgraded, Acumatica can increase your subscription 25%. Across the board, they just look, if you're on an outdated version, it can have a real cost of an increase to your subscription. And then if you're on a version that's more than 1 but less than 2 years retired, it's a 35% increase. So fortunately, we don't have anybody in that range. After that, Acumatica says, please call. So we definitely, you're going to see often messages from us. If you're on a version that is retired, reminders to ensure that you have your upgrade scheduled so that by the time you renew that you're not going to have an actual cost hit your subscription. Okay, let's talk about customizations now, and we'll start getting into some of those questions that you guys posed earlier, okay? So because I'm talking about upgrades, customizations, it kind of seems like, wow, customizations are a bad thing. They are not a bad thing. Customizations can be a very good thing because they can help drive process improvements. Action realizes that customizations can have, very good effects on your business. This is why Action has a development team that works specifically on customer requested customizations. So as I walk through this, when I talk about things we have to look for in the customization, it's not meant in any way to discourage you from customizing your site. It's just to help you understand what you need to know and how to plan your upgrades for your customizations. So, most commonly we see it because you have a unique business workflow that you've developed that actually affects your bottom line, right? Maybe you have some workflow that is unique in the industry that you're in, again, that drives profitability, so you want that same workflow in your software. Or there's a product gap that we can help fulfill through customization. So we're definitely here to help. And then related to the ISV customizations that you guys may have, Acumatica is working actively to ensure all of their partners, as soon as you decide to upgrade, you will have a version available to you from your ISV. So let's talk about how do you know what customizations, and I'll get to the question here about what is low code, no code. Know what is applied to your instance. If you have an ISV, third party that you're integrating with, you should know, is it an actual customization project, or are they connecting via an API connection, right? So you want to understand how they're updating between the two systems, and that having customizations can raise your cost of ownership, right? Because you might have to modify some of those customizations that you have developed to enhance your business process workflow. And we're going to talk about how you can know well before you upgrade if there's going to be any type of change in the upgrade that could impact your customization. So this diagram here is meant to kind of show you the difference of, when Acumatica talks about low code or no code changes, kind of above the line here. These are going to be things such as you've added a field into a screen. Okay, there's no functionality around it. It's just an additional field, perhaps similar to a user-defined field or an attribute. Those are available to the end user to insert, or oftentimes we could have programmed them into the screen, which would have had a customization package created. More low-code, no-code customizations would be something such as a workflow. So in Acumatica, the standard screen workflow might be from hold to pending approval to released, for example. Sometimes you want to add in some additional steps to that workflow. Those are customizations that Acumatica considers to be low code. It does require a customization package, but you're actually building that workflow through Acumatica's predefined steps for creating the customization. Now, things that more are considered more high risk, now that does not mean it's going to break after upgrade. We're only going to know that is if I have customized, let's say I've customized my AP screen, a very specific screen, and I've actually done some functionality changes to that screen. When I read my release notes, we're going to look for any changes that were made to that specific screen, right? So the release notes will tell me if there's been any changes related to that, and I'll be able to go, if I know what my customizations are, I can start to tell perhaps maybe I better jump on my upgrade sooner rather than later because I may have to retrofit my customization. Okay, so you definitely want to make sure you have a sandbox for testing your upgrade if you know that you've had some major functionality changes are part of your customizations. The other thing is ISVs, right? So you want to make sure you know which third parties your system is interacting with, and you want to make sure that you have an updated version. So if it's a customization package, you want to make sure it's you've got the latest version, or that their API is going to not have any conflicts with your updated version. So let's talk about how do we find out? How do we know what is going to be a breaking change in Acumatica? Well, for anyone who's ever read the highly exciting release notes that come out from Acumatica, I mean, I do enjoy reading them, believe it or not. I know they're not for everybody, but very quickly in the contents of every release notes that, you know, they can be you know, several hundred pages, but there's a section that actually says upgrade procedure breaking changes. Okay, it's going to very specifically call out any screens that had changes that would actually cause these breaking changes. So you have the ability to know what those changes can be. And keep in mind, you know, again, that's why Action's here, your primary consulting account manager. You can reach out to them and say, hey, I need you to help me walk through what my customizations are and understand if there's going to be any breaking changes in the next release. Okay. All right, so here in a minute, I'm actually going to get into the software so we can start to take a look. But right here in the middle of the screen, the customization projects is the screen that holds all of the what we call the customization projects or packages. Okay, each one of those lines is a customization, and that customization has been published, so it contains code that is actually being published into your site, and it's changing, modifying, or adding feature functionality to your instance. Okay, so now with the Always Current program, Acumatica has enabled this new feature where Acumatica can actually tell if it is a program that is part of their that's certified and they're always current. Now, little yellow highlighted note warning sign there. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the customization. It's not telling you anything other than Acumatica doesn't recognize it as a known or certified customization. Therefore, the warning message is saying, hey, you've got a little bit of work to do here to ensure that you're not going to have any issues upon upgrade. Now, the most important thing to note here is that when you are upgraded, all customizations are unpublished. So when we put in a ticket to Acumatica, because it is a server function, Acumatica has to perform the actual upgrade on your instance. We put in the request to them to upgrade. So the first thing that happens is they unpublish all of your customizations, they upgrade your site, and then you're notified dear customer or dear action, your client has been upgraded, please go in and republish all of your customizations. So that's why the screen here, you'll see nothing is checked, everything is unpublished. And so part of today's primary goal is to make sure you guys see how to republish those customizations, because as I mentioned, they all will become unpublished after upgrade. Okay, so out on the Acumatica community, I had mentioned that each ISV, right in the marketplace screen, there's a new checkbox right here that certifies that third party as always current certified. So if you had any questions around, well, how do I tell if my third party ISV is on the always current program, that's all you have to do. Go out to the community and take a look on the marketplace. Okay. So as I mentioned, the marketplace will list whether or not they're on the always current program, and then to know when the standard maintenance window is for the people that will receive the minor updates. Acumatica had these previously scheduled for the third Tuesday of each month, and they do it between the hours of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. Even for the upgrades, that is the standard timing of when this work is performed. So they're trying to ensure this is Eastern time, by the way. So it'll be after 10 p.m. and before 2 a.m. for the West Coast. So keep in mind, if you're on always current, those minor updates, that's when those updates will occur. Again, notified by email of the date of when they occur. So oftentimes if they tell you just the date, you can rest assured that the time is normally after hours. So if you are on a 24-hour working schedule, you'll want to make sure to notify your staff of the update. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop again there. My next section, I will actually be going through and showing you in the software, we're going to talk about the sandboxes, and we're going to actually go in and take a look at the customizations. Is there any questions around the always current program? How do you find out if, which program you're on? Or anything related to ISV third-party customizations?
So there has been some questions that have come in. I don't know if you can see them or if you want me to read them. There's been some conversation going on as well. So I'll scroll up. So right as you restarted again, someone asked what the costs were for each upgrade.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you covered that or not.
So in theory, there is no cost for the upgrade other than your internal process to allocate resources to test. So currently the sandbox, Acumatica provides you with 2 free sandboxes each year, 1 for each version, for 90 days. That's free of no charge. Acumatica provides that, which is pretty amazing because a lot of other software companies don't provide that. So that is free, no charge, as long as you do not need to extend it beyond the 90 days. Again, it's an internal cost to organization, so you need to ask, again, I usually say subject matter experts, someone from your accounting team, someone from your operations team, kind of to, take a few hours to walk through their normal day-to-day operation and just see what the outputs are from the system. Now, if you want to get Action involved in assisting you in this process, you're just like, look, I don't know what my customizations are. I just need someone to walk through this. You can get a hold, you can put in a hotline case. It'll get to your primary account manager. They will schedule a call with you to walk through and see, do you need us to walk through a few items? They can give you an estimate for us to assist with that. We will also, if you have customizations in your site, generally we can help read through, for example, we can read through the breaking changes, look at them compared to your environment, and then prepare to look to see what the level of effort will be to do the customization. But we can provide you with a scope of work should you deem it's in your best interest to have us assist you in that process.
Okay. What's the best way to keep informed about upcoming changes? Where's the best place to view the release notes?
The best place is on the Acumatica community, right under products, and I will show you guys right where that is located.
Okay. So it's a little bit longer. We are in favor of the upgrade, especially because the ERP has so many glitches. However, in the last one we did last year, it collapsed all of our security aspects that had been implemented and exposed confidential information that was not prudent to be observed by company employees. How can we prevent that from happening again?
That's a good question. So most likely that's related to potentially custom reports that could have been opened up, that could have had additional security opened up. So in that case where you know you have several custom reports that are sensitive, there should be an extra step to validate those. I will walk through that. That should be part of the sandbox testing. Amy, let's take a note of that. So I don't necessarily have an example of that, but I think that's a valid question to ensure some additional steps to help the client ensure that that doesn't occur.
Okay. And then this one, people have been commenting back and forth on this. So the person saying, so we pay Action to review our current environment for any customizations. Then Action quotes us what it will cost to correct any customizations that are affected by the upgrade. Then we have to then pay our team to review the sandbox. Then we pay Action for the upgrade and also to correct any affected customizations. And then they say, your example of the iPhone is nothing like this. Why wouldn't the initial review of our current environment include testing so we can at least cut out the burden of our team having to perform the review?
So that's a great question. And the simple answer is because we don't know how your end user utilizes the system. Let me give you an example, right? So I can enter an AP invoice and everything looks fine to me, but if I have approvals, I can't necessarily test them if they're going to the right place. There's just certain business-specific processes that we are not familiar enough to do that deep level testing, okay? So we can do high-level testing for sure. Now, keep in mind, Acumatica has already done a high-level testing, okay? All of their upgrades are not released until they've gone through quality control, which is the standard process, and that's where the breaking changes notes come from, is all of their testing in their environment. So now what is being asked is now it's going to be customer-specific workflows. So if you have worked intimately with an Acumatica consultant that knows your workflows, it's possible that you could have them walk through that, but it's kind of it's an unknown scope of work, right, other than what Acumatica has already tested. So it is a valid question that you would like someone else with intimate knowledge of your systems to walk through it. I've seen both cases where if there is somebody on the staff that's fully aware of that, then you can engage that staff with the scope to assist. Now, in the past, for the new clients at Action, you know, part of your support program, that's why you want to speak with your account representative here. Some of the programs did include what we said upgrade management. That was just merely us assisting you to put in the ticket to upgrade. And as mentioned, when we publish the customizations, we know if they break or not, right? So even Action, we're not aware of what breaking changes potentially can be in the product. We have to read through all of those release notes as well, right? So we have instances where clients have produced their own customizations, these low-code, no-code workflows, for example. Several of you are very creative and have been able to do those. We have performed some, but it's really part of the testing. The only way you can ensure no cost is to have no customizations, right? And in that way, you can guarantee that you will not have any breaking changes in your instance. You're just going to have new features included. So they're all very valid questions, and for as long as I've been in the industry, upgrades and trying to minimize your cost have always been part of every software that I've ever worked with. So our goal here is to help you minimize any effects that can occur after upgrade.
This same person's asking if they can do the upgrades without Action being involved.
Absolutely. It just takes a case, gets submitted to Acumatica. Okay, so you submit, and if you have Acumatica support, whoever is the primary person with the Acumatica support can submit a case requesting Acumatica to upgrade you at a specific date and time. You will then need to go in, if you have customizations, and republish them. So if you do not have Acumatica support, it does require your business partner to submit the case on your behalf.
Okay. Someone's saying that they just realized they're on version 2022 R1.
2022 R1 is a recent version. It's 2021 R1 is the retired version.
So the year 2021 R1 is retired, but not 2022 R1.
Correct.
Awful. All right, so I think there's somebody that has the same person has some more comments and questions. So I think whoever they're
yep.
Yeah, I think we should get them involved so that we can
Perfect.
Get through the rest of the content.
Perfect. Okay, so let's talk about the things that are proactive. So the sandbox. Again, to request a sandbox, kind of similar to the same question earlier, can I request this myself? Absolutely. It's a support case through Acumatica to set up the sandbox. We are more than happy to get that support case inserted on your behalf as well, because the sandbox is just the best way to ensure you're not going to have issues. So you get a 90-day window, and Acumatica considers this more than enough time because basically they say in the first 30 days you should be able to complete any and all workflow testing, okay? In the 60-day window, you have time to fix any customizations. If you check each of your inquiries, perhaps you made a change to one of your inquiries, you didn't really pay attention, but when you tested that inquiry in the sandbox, you realized. So you're saying, well, Colette, how do I know if my inquiries have changed? You will know if you walk through your day-to-day operations. So if I'm someone on the accounting team in accounts payable or accounts receivable, if I walk through a sample of what I do each day, post a payment, post an invoice, and then go look at a couple of my reports that I know I run, that is how I'm going to guarantee that the screens that I normally use, do they look the same to me. If I'm the controller, I'm going to run through my month-end process just with the reports, right? Go in, my what I like to call my Bible of reports. I want to make sure each of those reports look like they did from the previous month. And then, you know, the additional 30 days, Acumatica considers, okay, worst case scenario, you know, you had a delay, you had some emergencies, you know, delayed your testing, you still have another 30 days before the sandbox expires, right? So best practice would be start your process when you know you can dedicate resources to this. Again, if you have specific team members you can assign this to, I would estimate, you know, 2 hours for each module or each area of expertise. So worst case, if you have kind of all the modules, you're really probably looking at 8 to 10 hours of testing over 30 days, right? So that's kind of a best practice recommendation of what you're looking at to run through some scenarios. Okay, so what are you looking for? You know, minor updates as well. You won't have a sandbox for the minor updates, but what are some of the things that can change? Somebody kind of mentioned some inquiries, some dashboards and reports. I'm gonna take a minute here to jump out and pull over my system. Okay, so basically inside of Acumatica, we have the ability, so this is an example of a dashboard. I have here, this is considered a generic inquiry, all of our landing pages. You know it's an inquiry screen because it has PL at the end of the screen, just as an FYI. So every inquiry that's an out-of-the-box inquiry has a PL at the end of it. This will take somebody that has customizer rights. You can see customization. I can go into my generic inquiry here and I can save this inquiry. What tends to happen is people will customize an inquiry not realizing that that screen, every time during an upgrade, Acumatica replaces that screen with their new screen. So if I had made changes to an out-of-the-box inquiry, I can save this inquiry here by exporting it as an XML. So anytime that you're scheduled for an upgrade, obviously you're going to check your inquiries in the sandbox if you're testing for a major upgrade, but I have the opportunity here to save the screen. If I have not saved this as a new inquiry, it will be overwritten, but I can save it right here by exporting. Okay, another thing that can be done is that you can create a copy of this with a new screen name. So again, I know we're going to have some future trainings on reporting and inquiries, so a deeper dive can be done at that time. My goal here was just to ensure that you can save these screens. Same thing with a dashboard. Okay, so all of these screens, if you have customizer rights, you'll see in each of these screens you have the option wherever the paper folder. If I pulled up a dashboard here, you can see I can export this as XML. After my upgrade, I can go grab the file, I can bring it back in. Okay, so that's just kind of a helpful hint on the dashboard and inquiry. Okay. So coming back here, so the dashboards, generic inquiries, and then reports, as long as you're using the standard, which is every report is saved with the new name. I'll show you a quick example here on the menu. Let me see, quick one here. So in the reports, anytime a report has been modified, for anybody that has the reporting tool, you'll see right over here, the latest report, the report versions are always saved. If Action has helped you modify a report, we will always save it as a new version, therefore eliminating any risk that an upgrade would overwrite a newer version of the report. So lower risk here on those items. Okay. So coming back to the question of how do we find out what those changes are in the system, how can we do our homework? Let's go ahead and take a look here. I'm logged in to the Acumatica community. I essentially went to product, I pulled up a product version, and the screen right here is going to contain all the information I need to know. Here's my upgrade notes, and as I mentioned, the release notes, right, are available. So if I click on those, it will update. Go. So inside of the release notes, that's where it's going to contain information about the screens that have changed. Now, if I don't have CRM, for example, I don't need to go through what those changes are, and this is where the content, right, talks about the upgrade notes themselves. So everything's available to you on Community that talks about what each of the changes are that have occurred in the latest version. And again, take every opportunity to sit in on any webinars. Acumatica spends a lot of time on their 2 major upgrades each year, highlighting and showcasing what those new features are. All right, so let's talk about the customization projects, okay? So as I mentioned, how you're going to know what customizations that you have published inside of your instance is going to be on the customization project screen. You can get to it by starting to type in, so you see it lives under customization profiles and customization projects, okay? The first thing that the screen is telling me here on the left is that whether or not these items are published. Right here under this Publish tab, this is showing me what is currently published into my site, okay? These checkboxes over here allow me to know here when I go, when the system is upgraded, those check marks, the system will become unpublished, but I'll be able to know, hey, those two I want to make sure in my next release I want to have published, okay? So here under the description, very important, if you are doing customizations to your own instance, make sure that you describe what is happening in each one of these packages. And then if there's a screen that is affected in the customization, so in this one, here's a workflow modification. The package was named appropriately, and it's telling me it's changing this screen right here. So this is the purchase receipt screen. So in this case, I would want to read my upgrade notes, see if there was any breaking changes to this screen or perhaps to the purchase receipt process. And if there were not, I could be pretty assured that I would not be faced with any breaking changes. So that's how I would go about ensuring what my customizations are for. So then how do we publish the customizations? Essentially, all I have to do is come into the site and hit the publish button, okay? So in this example right here, depending upon, of course, my internet speed, it's going to go through and it's going to start the validation process for the customizations. Now, most importantly, this process should not be run while users are in the system. It will restart your website. Okay, so in the presentation that you guys will have a copy of, I'll be going back to here in a second, it's going to highlight that you want to ensure all users are out. So you'll see here it's running through, it's validating the process, and it's going to come back with validation successful, and then you will be able to continue with publishing of the customization. So this is in the sandbox. This is the very first thing that you would do. Again, when you get your sandbox, all the customizations are unpublished. So you'll need to go back in and publish those. And should you get any error in the publishing, that's where you can open a support case and notify us. So you see here it's still running through validation. It'll come to the end here, and then I'll be able to complete the process. All right, so while we're waiting for that to complete, it can take, this process can take up to 10-15 minutes. It should not on this site, but it's most likely my internet speed. Okay, so here, republishing the customization. So as I pointed out, under the publish, this shows what is published. This shows what is not published into the instance. And so best practices, as I mentioned, it will restart your system. You have the option to also schedule a lockout if you want to ensure that nobody logs into your system while you're applying the update. And if you have several tenants, I do want to talk just briefly here before the end of our time about multiple tenants. Let me just make sure if this is published. Still thinking. Okay. So in Acumatica, go ahead here. Whoops. 1 second. So when we publish to multiple tenants, Acumatica does have out there, if you go out to community and you say, how do I, if you have more than one tenant and you want all of the customizations to apply to all the tenants, you have the option right here next to the publish to be able to publish to multiple tenants. There is very limited possibility that the customizations will not publish to all your tenants. Okay, it's a known issue in Acumatica that is documented here that unless your customization has been designed to specifically only affect one tenant, it will apply to all of your environments. So if you have a demo environment or you have another company and another tenant, unless the customization again has been coded only to apply to a specific tenant, it will apply to all of your tenants. And then most importantly, I want to talk about, okay, so what if I go through this process, you know, I missed the whole thing about the upgrade, something broke in my instance, I wasn't aware, everybody was on vacation. I mean, things can happen. I want to let you know what your options are should you need to restore your environment to a previous point in time, okay? Acumatica has that option available to you. They charge currently $415 per occurrence, but they will be able to roll back, restore, refresh, undo an upgrade to whenever your last backup was done on their server, okay? So that's generally either the night before or the previous day, depending upon when you need to have the recovery done. There is an additional option that's available from Acumatica to restore it up to a 15-minute interval. You'll want to work with your PCAM or your account representative should you ever need to restore your instance. That 15-minute window, essentially Acumatica has to go through several steps. They can do it though, okay? So worst case, you have there is an option available to you as part of the Acumatica environment. So I know we've come up right against the time. Let me see if my screen, there we go. So as it went through the process, it tells me my validation finished successfully. And you see right here, warning, active website users will be logged out. Okay, so essentially the last thing I have to do is hit publish and I will be done as soon as it comes back. So you see right here, that piece was very quick. It updated my website files, restarted the website, updated the database. It told me all the little notes here, and then it's done. That's it. So if I just have a couple simple customizations, I upgraded. These were no effect in my system. I republished them, and I'm done. All right, so that does conclude the items I wanted to walk through. I know we're right up against the time here. I can take a couple of minutes for questions, Amy, if needed.
Okay, there's been a lot of chatter, so I'm just going to try to find the questions. People are overwhelmed, so I think there's a few people that we definitely need to have someone contact.
Great.
But let's see
Great.
if okay, so someone's saying something about the sandbox. Along the bottom, there is a notice that reads, your product is in trial mode. Only 2 concurrent users are allowed. Is this standard for sandboxes?
That's correct. So keep in mind, the sandbox, basically Acumatica has created a replicated instance of your entire environment on a new server. That's why you have a new URL to that location. You have purchased only one active license with Acumatica. Acumatica provides this free at no charge. However, they do not use your active license, right? So everything in ERP is controlled by your licensing. They cannot apply that license to your sandbox, otherwise it would remove your active license on your system. Therefore, you get an unlicensed version of your exact environment that limits you to a two-user system. Acumatica has stated that if you need more than 2 users, that you need to contact your sales representative. So again, send in a support case to Acumatica. Sorry, a support case to Action, and we can get that addressed. But please do not let that stop you from moving forward, at least with having, again, it's 2 concurrent users. So that means everybody would have to be performing their testing at the same time. So several clients usually just stagger it out and it works just fine. So accounting does testing in the morning, operations in the afternoon, something like that. But that is why it does state that at the bottom of the sandbox.
Okay. I think that's all the questions.
Great. Well, this was meant to elicit a lot of discussion. There's been a lot of discussions. We've seen a lot of hotline cases come in. It was meant to open the door for additional conversations. Amy will definitely take note of those of you who are interested in continuing the conversation. We want to make sure everyone is comfortable and understands their Acumatica instance. So we're here to help.
There is one more question. Should a snapshot be created before upgrades? Would it help if there is a critical issue?
So again, that snapshot, if you need to restore, basically if the upgrade did not work, it's not going to be helpful because you will be upgraded to a new version, and that snapshot will be specific to an older version. So potentially what it can be, if you have to go through the disaster recovery where they restore you to a previous point in time, if you had a snapshot, you could upload that and that could be your actual environment. But once the upgrade happens, keep in mind that snapshot will be an older version unless you rolled back to the prior version. Because that upgrade is actually upgrading the platform that your database sits on. The snapshot is of your database.
Okay. I think that's it. thank you everyone for joining us today. Hopefully you found it valuable and answered a lot of your questions, and please do reach out to your primary consultant if you have questions, and we will have people reach out to you. Those of you that have made comments in the chat today. So thank you again for taking time today with us.